What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the PT Coffee Cast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and alongside me today, very closely, is my beautifully bearded friend, William. William, how are we doing today?
Feeling good about this new setup?
Yeah, I felt like I just wanted to switch it up today.
You just were too far away from me last time.
Yes.
So we just thought, hey, let's get this coffee breath even closer.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys. My mind's kind of all over the place today. So I don't know how great my efforts are going to be in this podcast. So Will's going to carry this one because. So before we dive into this episode, make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. You can do that on your podcast platforms. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can see this beautiful new setup that we have right now, and so that we can get to 500 subscribers on the Movement YouTube channel. That is our goal for this year. We're also doing a webinar, for the mentorship, a free webinar that you guys can join. The show notes are in the bio of this podcast. It's going to be on imposter syndrome and how to overcome that, and we'll be hosting that in May. So make sure you sign up for that. We still have some spots available. And then if you want to learn more about the mentorship, make sure you head over to themovementmentorship.com. Check that out. You can fill out an application there for the next cohort that we're going to have sometime this year, later into the summer, which we're stoked about. But yeah, make sure you guys check that out. And we're going to dive into the episode. I'm going to have Will intro the topic, and then we're going to get into it.
All right, so yeah, introing the topic. Here we go. The idea that we wanted to talk about is when you have a client come in and you're talking to them and maybe you catch yourself trying to convince them of something. And that can be anything, hey, you actually have been getting improvement, or, hey, this is going to be tough to, complete on your own without guidance, like things along those lines. If your client, is maybe thinking about, maybe I'm going to stop, I'm going to try this on my own, or, I'm just feeling a little bit fatigued and defeated by rehab, like I feel like I'm not making much progress. And I think oftentimes your default there is to just start trying to convince them with your words and talk to them about the progress that we've made. And so what we wanted to talk about is how oftentimes what can be a better approach is to, instead of trying to verbally convince them, is to kind of agree with them and just empathize with them a little bit, and then start to go through movements, tests, exercises to show them and to use the feeling and the actual experience to help highlight, certain points that you might want to get across.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, because I think a lot of times what happens is we know that they've made progress, and we've seen from an outside standpoint they're doing really well, but when you're that individual and you're in the moment, maybe you're not where you want to be, it's very easy to get defeated. And so for me, all I want to do is verbally be but no, you're doing so well, you're crushing it, keep focused on this, keep moving forward. And a lot of times you'll go kind of back and forth with them, they'll be frustrated or maybe don't feel like they're headed in the right direction, and then you'll be but no, you are, and you guys kind of go back and forth. And even if your intentions are good and you're not trying to get in this verbal jousting match with this person, a lot of times, even when that's positive, it's not sticking in their brain. They're just in such a place where it doesn't really matter what you say to them. They're just not gonna have it click. And I think in those moments, it's really important to recognize when you're in that and trying to flip to, okay, how do I show this person that they've made progress? Whether it be with maybe some objective data that you've tracked over time that you can show them, or maybe it's through certain movements that you can go out in the gym, or maybe you're showing them on the board, or some type of education piece where you're visually showing them the difference and kind of having them come to the realization, versus just telling them hey, no, you are headed in the right direction.
Give a tangible example. I think I see this a lot with people dealing with irritable knee OA. Maybe they've been working for a while, and it's just one of those things where it's kind of sucks, you know, it hurts and it's up and down and it's just aching, and maybe you had a bad day, you didn't sleep well, and you're just negative, and it's like easy to get into that mind frame. Like you could see how somebody would get in that mind frame. Maybe they had a stressful week at work or with their family or whatever, right? And they're coming in and you're just like trying to tell them how much better they're doing than before, right? So sometimes you need to just kind of hear what they're saying, and then I might do something like test their range of motion, and it can be as simple as that. And oftentimes there actually is a huge difference from day one to where they are now. And just reiterating that, because you can honestly forget how, because you're so focused on the moment and how tough it is and the current stressors, it can be tough to reflect and even remember that some of these things were like not even possible when they first came in. And just highlight it like, oh, whoa, you know, like, do you remember what this was like when you first came in? And oftentimes they're like, not really. I remember it just being in a lot of pain. And you're like, when I tested this, I could barely get your foot flat on the bed.
Yeah.
Now I'm able to push completely into the joint. Like, this is, you know, just huge.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, whoa, you know, that is pretty cool. I guess I do remember that now, thinking back on it, and it's like, just, it's way easier for people to feel it and tie it to like the objective data after versus like you just telling them.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think like that can go such a long way for the relationship with the client too. Like I had a similar example the other day where I had a client who I've been working with for a long time, and he's made great progress, and he came in and he was like, I've been doing really bad, like you're not going to be happy with me, like I haven't been doing my stuff. And like meanwhile this guy like tore his Achilles, and we've been working together for a really long time, and he's doing really well, like he's crushing it. And I was just like, I was trying to tell him like it's all good, like, you know, trying to verbally reinforce it, and I could tell it wasn't like sitting well with him. So I immediately kind of pivoted the session to like really highlight how much improvement he's made. So I had him do like a max single leg calf raise test, and he got the most reps that he had ever gotten. And then I had him do like this hopping drills that we hadn't really done, that we were starting to transition in, and he was able to do it. And then I just reinforced at the end like, yo, you're doing great. Like this is the best you've done in your calf raises and on your jumping drills. And then on the way out, I was like, it's all good, man. Like you're headed in the right direction. And he was like, oh, I feel so much better about that. Like I'm thanks. Like I'm feeling good. I was feeling like really shitty coming into this. And that's just a good example of like showing the client versus like, I could have kept verbally telling him and he wouldn't have cared what I said.
I think that's a really good example, because that sort of injury, an Achilles rupture, is one where it just doesn't feel great, you know? And like, I think the threshold for how much improvement has to happen to really feel good is pretty high. Yeah. And so you kind of just don't feel good. And if you're maybe like, you've been off for a couple weeks, like it can make you feel really bad about the injury. But then when you actually look at it objectively, it's like improvement is happening.
For sure.
It just isn't feeling that significant yet because it's not enough. But something like that can really highlight, oh, you're actually moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
It just still doesn't feel great. But you got to keep going on that path, and then they're like, oh, I feel much better about like the direction I'm going and the work that I've been putting in.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like the next time you guys maybe get in this situation, try that. Like kind of the framework that I've used is like, you know, if you're catching yourself getting in like a little bit of a back and forth with the client, just remind yourself to like agree and acknowledge the client, and then try to positively reinforce the behavior that you want to see or the point that you want to get across. And the best way to positively reinforce that is by having the client engage in something actively. So whether that be the session or on the board or some type of active process is a good way to like have them see that shift. So I think that's something you guys can try the next time this happens.
Yeah, I think like it's kind of that circumstance, like you said, where it's you find yourself kind of
you know when you kind of get in it too.
Yeah.
Like you can, if you're paying attention, you can recognize you're like, this isn't going anywhere.
Because on the flip side of that, there's times where that's not happening. You're actually like, you feel really together with the conversation, and you should just keep going.
Yes.
Right? Like if you're making headway, even if it's about something that maybe is like a failure point or like a struggle, but it's not so jousting. It's
you
more
guys are
a
like kind of working together. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is specifically for when you feel like there's a little bit of tension, and it's like, hey, let's go get working.
Yeah.
And see how things are feeling.
Yeah. Totally. Sweet. Quick one today.
Yeah.
Quick one in our quick location. This is our quick episode location.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see what that looks like, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We want to get that up to 500 subscribers. So head over there, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you aren't following us on Instagram, head over there, follow us at PT Coffee Cast. If you aren't subscribed to the podcast on your audio platforms, make sure you do that. And then just a reminder, we do have a webinar at the middle of May that we're doing for everyone. So Overcoming Imposter Syndrome, you can sign up for that in the show notes. And then check out themovementmentorship.com for all things mentorship. But that's all we got for today, guys. As always, stay caffeinated. Peace.